It was my birthday last week, but instead of cake and candles, I've gathered stories that will make you fear another year. I know I do. I'm Blair Bathory, and welcome to the Something Scary podcast. Thank you so much for joining us as we descend into the darkness. First, a deadly family ritual, followed by do not look in the mirror. Finally, in our last story, the price of blood. So, want to hear something scary? Cakes and screams. Sometimes, it's not the people you don't know who are dangerous, but the family you thought you could trust, like in this family story shared by Lila. Today was my birthday. I raced downstairs before even brushing my teeth with a smile on my face like I was a little kid. 16, finally. I was already imagining my cake and the sugary frosting melting on my tongue. "Happy birthday, Julie," my mom shouted. A pink frosted cake sat on the counter, candles flickering as if they had their own life. Streamers hung from the ceiling, crookedly taped. And a pile of presents sprawled across one chair, crumpled wrapping paper scattered beneath them. I grinned, but something felt weird. The decorations were all placed too neatly, too deliberate. And my mom's hands trembled slightly as she set the cake down. "Where's Dad?" I asked, already sensing a weird tension in the air. "He went to pick up family from the airport," she said. "Family?" I frowned. She didn't look at me. "We're having a big family dinner tonight. Everyone's coming." Everyone? The word sank like a stone. I'd never met them, not once. They lived in Alaska. They hadn't come when I turned 10 or 13 or 15. Why now? Why my 16th? Her smile wavered, frosting smeared under her fingers. "Because 16 is important." Her voice quivered, and I couldn't tell if it was fear, excitement, or something else entirely. By nightfall, the house felt crowded. Strangers hugged me like they'd known me forever, perfume clinging to my sweater. Their smiles were stiff, too wide, too perfect. One man, I think he was my uncle, brushed past me so quickly I barely saw him, whispering, "Just like her," before vanishing into the shadows. Dinner smelled good, roast chicken, buttered potatoes, but it was heavy, almost greasy. My stomach twisted at the smell. Nobody else seemed to eat anything. Forks scraped plates, but most of the food remained untouched. "So," my aunt said after a long silence. 16. I nodded. "Yep." My fork bent slightly at the prongs, and I noticed it, but nobody else seemed to care. She glanced at my dad. He rose so fast his chair squeaked. I blinked, and it was like he had been standing there all along, just waiting. I had the fleeting, uneasy thought that he had somehow known I'd be watching, already anticipating me. "Julie?" he said, throat tight. "There's something we need to tell you." Divorce, I thought immediately, or maybe a surprise car. My pulse hammered. He jerked his head toward the back door. I followed. Cheeks burning. Everyone at the table was watching. I swear one cousin's eyes flicked towards me before I even moved, like he already knew I'd follow. The night air was damp. My sneakers squelched in the grass. The crickets seemed to chirp too loudly. A shadow moved where it shouldn't have, and when I blinked, nothing was there. Dad stopped at the shed, the one I wasn't allowed near, ever. "Dad?" He didn't answer. The lock clicked open almost as he touched it. The door groaned. A wave of stench rolled out, part metallic, part sour. The bulb inside flickered weakly. My brain scrambled to process what I saw. Knives. Every kind imaginable. Kitchen knives, cleavers, and hunting blades. Lined the walls like trophies, polished to a deadly shine. He slumped in a chair. ropes digging into his wrists and ankles, duct tape sealing his mouth. Bruises mapped every inch of his skin. When he lifted his head, his eyes locked with mine, wide and desperate. I had the creeping sensation that he almost could see my thoughts, reading my panic before I even realized it. My throat closed. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my chest. Then, almost involuntarily, it tore out anyway. Before I could even step back, my aunt was at my side. I swear she hadn't moved, but she was there. Her hand pressed the mask into mine before I realized I'd reached for it. The man in the chair thrashed. My pulse jumped, but my father was already in front of me, knife in hand, calm and eerily still, like he had anticipated my fear before it even rose. His movements were too precise, too fast, but perfectly smooth. "It's your turn now," he said. Before I could step back, my aunt was suddenly there. I didn't hear her move. One second she wasn't, the next her hand was shoving something into mine. A mask. Not the kind from a party store. This one was stiff leather, cracked at the edges, and damp like someone had just been sweating in it. It smelled like iron and smoke. Dark stains ringed the mouth. Whoever had worn it before hadn't kept it clean. The man in the chair saw it and started thrashing so hard the ropes cut into his wrist. His muffled scream was raw, panicked, like he knew exactly what it meant. I wanted to throw it away, but my dad was already blocking the door. He had a knife in his hand, a shiny, sharp one. But what froze me wasn't the blade. It was the way he stood calm, steady, like he'd been through the same scene dozens of times before. I glanced past him, and that's when I realized it wasn't just knives on the wall. There were shapes slumped in the corners, not mannequins, not bags, bodies. Some just bones, some still fresh enough that the smell made my throat burn. "It's your turn now," Dad said. My chest tightened. I thought about running, but every time I moved, someone was already there, like they'd predicted it before I even tried. Their eyes weren't just watching, they were pushing, urging. The truth hit me in a sick wave. This wasn't about random killings. My family wasn't choosing this. They were following orders from something I couldn't see but could feel, pressing at the edges of my thoughts, hungry and waiting. The knife ended up in my hand. I don't remember reaching for it. I don't remember the strike, just the sound afterward, a clap, then another, until the shed roared with applause from every masked face, congratulating me on my first kill. I don't remember every detail, just the smell, the weight of the knife, the way the masks all seemed to anticipate my next move, the way their presence brushed against the edges of thought, like they were everywhere and nowhere at once. And I don't hesitate anymore. Not anymore. You know, the truth is sometimes the people closest to us hide the darkest secrets. And sometimes the things they teach or tell us can haunt us forever. Stories like Julie's remind us how thin the line can be between love and fear. If someone you trusted demanded the unthinkable, would you follow them? Okay, here is my weekly update. Yes, last week was my birthday. Yay! Wish me happy birthday in the comments, y'all. Also, we, on my birthday, got to screen my new film in Los Angeles. I had so many friends present, some of the actors, and it was truly one of the coolest experiences of my life and definitely the best birthday I've ever had. So thank you to everybody that showed up to the screening of Rim. For the rest of the year, I've got a lot of cool things planned, more screenings across the country. I'll be traveling around doing that. I also plan on shooting some new spooky content. I haven't posted stuff on my socials all year, and I really, really, really want to get back into sharing vlogs and documentaries and verticals of all the spooky places I go, because I really go to spooky places all the time, and you guys are always asking to see that. If you have any suggestions while I'm in Los Angeles of any creepy, haunted locations that you've been to or you want me to check out, let me know in the comments. Tonight, when the lights go out, watch your reflection and keep your fingers crossed that it's still yours. Like in this nerve-wracking account retold by Sarah Lukasiewicz. Elena had never cared much about birthdays. They felt like mile markers on a road she didn't want to be driving down. Each one a reminder that youth was fleeting, that beauty faded, and that life kept moving whether she was ready or not. But turning 40 was different. Her friends said 40 was the new 30. Elena felt the number like a weight pressing into her chest. Her 20s had flown by in a haze of work and casual relationships. Her 30s had slipped quietly into routine, the calendar pages tearing off too fast. 40 felt permanent, real. Her apartment smelled faintly of lilacs, the flowers her sister had sent her for her birthday. A soft drizzle tapped against the windows, the kind that made the world shrink. That made her heart feel heavier in a way she couldn't name. She poured herself a glass of wine and sank into the couch, hugging her knees. Shadows swayed across the walls with uneven light, strange shapes that made her chest tighten. She remembered the story her niece had whispered years ago during a sleepover. Look in the mirror at midnight on your birthday. If your shadow moves differently than you, it claims you for the next year. Some people disappear. Some people never wake up again. Elena laughed back then. She wasn't laughing now. The clock ticked relentlessly toward midnight. She hovered near the tall, ornate mirror leaning against the bedroom wall. Her reflection stared back, calm, familiar. But the corner of her eye caught a flicker, something wrong in the way her shadow stretched. She froze. Her shadow didn't match her. It twisted oddly, as if independent of her body, stretching long and thin, curling at impossible angles. Her stomach nodded. "Who's there?" she whispered, almost too quietly. Her voice felt foreign in her own ears. No answer, just the shadow, still, deliberate, unnervingly smooth. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She yelped, dropping the glass of wine, fumbling for the phone. A message from her sister. "Happy birthday, Elle. Hope you're safe. Call me soon." Elena hadn't told anyone she was home alone. The hair on her arms prickled. The shadow in the mirror froze, but the corner of her vision, movement, tiny, subtle, wrong. She shook her head. Just imagination, just stress, just 40. She tried to go to bed, tried to sleep, but sleep betrayed her. She dreamed of mirrors ripping like water, of shadows bending into forms she didn't recognize, of herself whispering warnings she couldn't understand. She woke often, heart pounding, unable to shake the sense of being watched. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds. Relief? Maybe. But the reflection in the mirror seemed sharper, younger even, though the lines around her eyes were correct. Something about it was off. She couldn't name it, couldn't hold on to it. By evening, the rain returned. Darkness crept into the corners of her apartment. Elena noticed her shadow on the wall. And then she realized, with a sudden stab of fear, it wasn't moving like her. Its fingers twitched when hers didn't. Its body leaned while hers stayed upright. Panic clawed at her chest. She tried reasoning. Shadows didn't move like that. She wasn't superstitious. She had logic. She had wine. She had reason. But every instinct screamed wrong. She grabbed the phone to call her sister. Deadline. She tried again. Nothing. A flicker of light, and then the shadow stepped forward. Her heart hammered, breath short, hands shaky. She backed up, knocking over a chair. It smiled. She knew it was a smile because she knew her own face, but twisted, cruel, impossible. 40, she hissed, her own voice
40,
strangled
Elena.
and low.
Mine.
40,
now.
Elena. Mine, now. The clock struck 12. She stumbled backward. The shadow lunged. Elena screamed. She slammed the mirror with both hands and toppled it to the floor. Glass shattered, sharp shards glinting like teeth. She expected something, pain, darkness, but when she looked up, She was still there, upright, trembling. The shadow? Gone. Relief surged. She laughed nervously, but it sounded hollow. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened it. A photo of her sleeping self in the bed. Behind her, pressed to the ceiling like a smear of darkness, a hunched figure, indistinct, yet unmistakably her. The text beneath it read, "Happy birthday." She dropped the phone. Glass shattered further, empty room. Her heart raced. Unease sank deep, a weight she couldn't lift. Shadows no longer sat still. Mirrors reflected strange angles. Every surface hinted at movement. Days passed. Friends called. She smiled, laughed, carried on. But at night, at midnight, she checked the mirrors, windows, anywhere a reflection could exist. Always nothing, until the phone buzzed again. 1 month later, at the grocery store, a woman approached her, mid-40s, soft smile, familiar, yet wrong. "You're Elena, right?" "Yes." The woman's smile widened. "I'm you, but not. Don't worry. Temporary." She tilted her head, as if considering something. Some of us have to wait longer for the real celebration. Then she walked away, disappearing among the aisles. Elena stared after her, mouth open, blood pounding in her ears. She never saw her again. But mirrors never felt safe. Shadows never sat still. And at night, sometimes she glimpsed a figure moving independently, always just beyond the edge of vision, waiting, patient, watching. When friends asked about her 40th, she laughed. "Unforgettable," she said, and she meant it. Birthdays weren't about cake or candles. They were about reckoning, about what lurked in corners, in reflections, in shadows you thought were yours. And her shadow? It had all the time in the world. Sometimes she thought she caught it moving just behind her in mirrors. Sometimes she imagined it whispered when she was alone. She never knew it was truly there, or if 40 had finally unmoored her mind. But on rainy nights, she could swear that her reflection sometimes smiled before she did. I used to laugh at stories like this until I realized maybe some reflections aren't as harmless as we think. I like to think I know my own face or my own shadow, but sometimes I catch it doing something I didn't. If you looked in the mirror tonight, would it really be you staring back? Have you ever noticed anything odd, supernatural? Tell us in the comments. Or you can send us your own spooky encounter by sending us an email at SomethingScary@Snarled.com. It's time for something from one of our listeners, and this week I wanted to share an email. Hello, I've been a huge fan of your podcast and I would love to share my creepy story with you. I hope you like it, and I look forward to listening to your next scary episode. Every night, I always make sure to lock my bedroom door, and I don't sleep without a nightlight. God knows how many times I have triple checked my balcony door. I always thought about what would happen if I forgot to lock my doors and windows, and it would get me. But never mind that topic. I want to focus on my studies and plan the best sleepover with my friends, Anna and Tina. We decided to have a sleepover at my house because Anna's house was being renovated and Tina's parents were out of town that Saturday. Finally, the day of the sleepover came, and we had the best time. Movies, ice cream, pillow fights, and games. We soon started getting ready for bed. As I was about to close my bedroom door, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Piercing red eyes stared at me. The humanoid creature started crawling down from the wall. I was completely frozen and helpless. In all the excitement, I had completely forgotten to lock the balcony door. As it made its way slowly toward me, I heard Anna call out my name. I could do nothing but stare. The creature flinched back, snarled, and leaped toward me. When I was pulled back by Anna and Tina slammed and locked the door, we could hear the snarls and scratching as the creature was against the door. "What is that thing?" Tina asked. Anna followed. "Is that what I think it is?" I couldn't avoid the question, so we sat down and I explained. My aunt had come to my house with a pet cat as my birthday present a few months ago. I started noticing that as it grew, it became increasingly violent. It would hiss and stare at me with an unnatural glow in its eyes. I started researching this strange behavior and realized it was common among skinwalkers who take the form of an animal and are witches or restless souls, according to the Navajo folklore. Since then, I started keeping my cat out on the balcony and locking all the doors and windows in my room. We didn't sleep the whole night because of the screams, the moans, and the constant scratching against the bedroom door. That night was just a close call. Now I fear it will get me soon, and one day I will regret the day that I didn't lock my door. Signing off, Unicorn 14. If anybody's ever had a terrifying encounter involving something supernatural, tell us your story by sending us an email at somethingscary@snarled.com. And don't forget, subscribe on YouTube as Snarled so you never miss an episode creeping away. And trust me, you won't want to miss a thing, because next week it officially starts spooky season in October, my favorite time of year. Some betrayals don't just break families, they leave scars that reach beyond life itself. Like in this account submitted by Kat. Beth dropped her school bag on the floor and collapsed onto her bed. "I am so over this school year," she thought. Grade 10 at Walbrook High had been fine. She did well in school, teachers liked her, and the other girls admired her beauty. But beneath the surface, a quiet exhaustion and anxiety had settled. Always needing to do everything right felt tiresome. Sometimes she just wanted to vanish. A sudden knock jolted her. Beth sat up, heart racing. "Sarah, you scared the crap out of me." Her older sister Sarah stood in the doorway, hands on her hips, blonde hair falling perfectly over her shoulders, blue eyes sparkling. "Did you forget it's my birthday today, you little twerp?" Sarah teased. Beth's stomach sank. She had completely forgotten Sarah's 18th birthday, yet even in her panic, she felt a flicker of warmth seeing Sarah's familiar face, the effortless confidence that drew attention everywhere she went. Moments later, the house was filled with the rich aroma of spaghetti. They ate together, laughter threading through the clatter of dishes, but Beth could feel Sarah's energy pushing her outward, insisting on one more adventure. The sun lingered lazily in the sky, and the evening seemed perfect for a run along the trails near their home. Beth hesitated, exhausted from the day, but Sarah's insistence carried her forward. The shortcut Sarah chose was overgrown and narrow, winding into the woods where sunlight barely reached the ground. The path was silent except for their footfalls on the leaves. Beth's mind wandered, remembering the years she had spent coaxing Sarah into running, turning it into a shared ritual. That familiarity, that closeness, made the shock all the more acute when the pain tore through her ankle. She collapsed, her eyes widened in disbelief as she saw a silver bear trap clamped around her leg, teeth sunk into deep flesh. Panic rose in her throat. She tried to scream, but only a strangled gasp escaped. Sarah was there in an instant, her face a mix of horror and something else, something Beth could not place. Together they struggled against the trap, but it was futile. The pain was spreading, burning, numbing, and in an instant, Sarah pulled away, racing into the shadows. Beth's mind screamed her name as she was left alone, trembling in the gathering darkness. Time became meaningless. Hours passed, the forest darkened, and then lights appeared, flickering yellow in the distance. Relief surged as Beth assumed Sarah had returned with help. But the figures emerging from the gloom were not familiar. Cloaked, hooded, chanting in a strange language that vibrated through the air and pressed against Beth's ribs. Their eyes glinted in torchlight. Sarah came forward, tears streaking her face, but there was a distance in her movements, a tremor of obedience that chilled Beth. The bear trap was removed roughly, her mangled foot discarded to the ground. Beth's body shuddered in shock and pain, the rawness of blood and cold earth mingling with the acid smell of smoke. Then Sarah whispered words that would fracture Beth's world: the ritual, the sacrifice, the need for her blood to grant immortality. The fire was lit, consuming the tree and sending sparks like angry fireflies into the night. Beth was bound, helpless, her eyes drinking in the horrifying tableau around her. The chanting grew, swelling into a pulse that matched her own hammering heart. The memories of their sacred life, the laughter, the arguments, the small gestures of love flashed in fragments as the flames crept closer. Smoke burned her lungs. She tried to struggle, but the ropes held tightening with every frantic movement. And then finally, the fire licked her skin. Pain tore through her senses. And then silence, or something like it. Beth awoke to a world that was almost familiar, yet impossibly wrong. She was not burning, but she was not free. Her body was present but muted, trapped between life and death. From this liminal space, she saw the cult dispersing, the forest emptying, the remnants of the fire burning low. Sarah stood apart, clutching her chest, her face twisted in panic and confusion. Immortality, the prize she sought at such cost, had been corrupted. Beth's survival, her continued presence in some spectral form, has sabotaged the spell. Sarah was alive, but not untouched. Every heartbeat was agony, a constant, intimate punishment. Beth could only move her eyes. She watched Sarah's body convulse in the first true taste of the curse she had demanded. The immortality she had coveted was no reward. It was an immediate torment. Every nerve burned, every sensation magnified beyond comprehension. In the distance, the forest whispered with echoes of her own fear, and a cold realization settled into Beth's mind. Some bargains could never succeed, and some betrayals carried consequences that were far beyond human reckoning. Weeks later, news reports detailed the discovery of two bodies in the forest. Beth, 16, and Sarah, 18, both lifeless, found intertwined in the final moments of a horror no one truly understood. Authorities could not explain the cause. Friends and neighbors mourned the loss of two inseparable sisters, unaware that in some way their bond had endured beyond the boundaries of life and death, trapped in a shadow neither time nor ritual could touch. The forest returned to quiet. Leaves whispered around the paths where no one walked, and the shadows lingered long after the sun set. Somewhere between the living and the dead, Beth remained, a witness, a ghost, tethered to the world by the very betrayal that had sought to end her. And Sarah, cursed with the immortality she had craved, would carry the memory of her sister forever. Each heartbeat a reminder of the cost of desire and the fragility of trust. Wow. So in the end, the official reports tell a simple story. Two sisters found dead in the woods, their lives cut short under circumstances no one could explain. But the details, the trap, the fire, the whispers of ritual never made it into the headlines. Those pieces lived only in the silences, in the shadows left behind. What do you think is more terrifying? When the truth is hidden from us, or when we realize no one would believe it even if it were told? Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening so you don't miss a single episode. And if you know someone else who loves horror as much as you do, make sure you share this podcast and help us spread the scares. Rate, comment, review, and let us know what you think. This week's podcast stories were edited by Sarah Lukasiewicz, narration by Blair Bathory, produced, edited, and mixed by Fitz Harris, executive produced by Gail Gilman, music by Sapphire Sindalo and Calvin Linderman.